Every now and then I get those comments from people saying, why is Dungeons & Dragons so dark and horrible? Why are there so many monsters and things? It's such a depressing thing to be playing this game and there's just like evil everywhere. Well, this video is not for you. Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick channel. Patron request time, and I have had this request from a few folks, so here we go. Atropus, the world-born dead. The origin of this elder evil and cosmic level threat is the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. Many scholars will claim that Atropus is the god that was born dead, the last one that AO attempted to make but failed. Or, some say, it is the fetid remains of the amniotic fluids cast off by a long-lost god of death, neither of which is true. Atropus is an extremely powerful primordial, a being that manifested from raw entropy and elemental energy. Once a tremendous power of destruction, Atropus is an unmaker of worlds, the primordial that enjoyed kicking over the sandcastles of the other primordials at play in the cosmos in the early days, the wildfire that purges the old growth of the forest, making way for new things. When the astral gods were created, they sought order and permanence in the primaterial plane, and for this to be achieved, Atropus and other primordials of destruction had to be stopped. No one knows how this was done, but in the end, Atropus was severely damaged, though not completely destroyed. In its current state, little remains of Atropus but a decaying, disembodied head, 700 miles in diameter, with about a third of the size of Earth's moon, and deadly poisonous substance, which is what it's made of. It appears like black stone, heavily cratered, covered with foul amniotic fluid, moving and squirming about, animated with entropic undeath. It is a barren and rocky, roughly spherical world with mountainous ridges, deep trenches, sharp spikes of upthrusting from the ground, so large that it's hard to make out what part of the head one is looking at. Noxious tar bubbles up constantly from the thousands of ragged craters, spurting steaming geysers of highly toxic hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, methane, and carbon dioxide. The thin atmosphere is foul and cannot be breathed by living creatures that require air. The gases also form thick and ochre fog that only occasionally parts into clinging mists and eddies, within which are vampiric mists, which can be found on page 246 of Mordecai's Tome Foes, by the way. It also makes it very difficult to spot the numerous incorporeal undead that haunt every inch of the surface. Glossy black stones, each 40 miles in diameter, serve as the eyes of Atropus, and the mouth is a yawning chasm hundreds of miles deep and across, thickly populated with all manner of the most warped and horrific undead, of which, thankfully, there have never been many of them in any other location. Atropals, almost common here. Nightwalkers freely wander the blighted landscape and in a kind of hypnotic trance as they communicate telepathically with the ancient primordial. There are portals to the negative energy plane all over this place. Within the dense cluster of silent and eternally hungry undead, a single being of epic power holds court as the master of all. This entity is a massive, headless humanoid form radiating intense entropy and blasts of telepathic madness. It is the avatar of Atropus's incomprehensible intellect. Currently, Atropus orbits around the planet Glyph in the Torilian star system, also known more commonly as realm space. Glyph is known as the third of the 5 Wanderers, which is what they refer to as the outer planets. It was a grey planet that had a beautiful ring of 3 satellites. It was close enough to be observable from Toril, but use of magic or a telescope of sufficient size was required. In truth, Glyph was a harsh ringed planet that, as of the 14th century DR, had been occupied by the dreaded Illithid for about a century. Plant life was continually burned by the harsh atmosphere or by the mind flayers to prevent the humanoid cattle from hiding from them. A remarkably pure, edible gelatin water could be found on the place of seas, but most of the life forms of the planet lived underground. As well as the planet's drifting dust rings, Glyph was orbited by 3 satellites. One, known as Haven, was a hollowed out asteroid and treated as neutral ground for the different mind flayer factions. Another, Mingabwe, was a trading port for non-illithids, and orbiting Mingabwe was Polluta, an unmapped asteroid. A group of over 300 mercenaries from the Code Helm resided here, conducting raids against illithids in the other systems. All of this changed when Atropus arrived, and this was caused by the destruction and death that the mind flayers were actually inflicting. It attracted Atropus's attention. Glyph is now a haunted, lifeless nightmare planet, ringed by drifting bone fragments. Vast caverns of mewling undead horrors slouch about in the eternal darkness. On the surface, the gelatinous sea is a ruinous mire of rot and acidic ooze, while in the sky above, Atropus slowly orbits, casting its enormous black eyes to the next living worlds. The ocean covered planets called Chandos and Capri hold little interest for Atropus, but Toril, that is a banquet of death and destruction that it yearns for, and scholars, mages, and gods watch with keen interest to see when Atropus will leave the orbit of Glyph and make its approach to Toril. Such an event will see some telltale signs for the denizens of Toril. First of all, the levels of atropic energy on the planet will begin to increase. The instances of evil dead rising from profane places will become more and more frequent. At first, restricted to those sensitive to prophecy and portent, there will be a gradual increase, even among normal people, of terrible nightmares and even waking visions of the coming apocalypse. Ordinary life will start to be impacted as bread and milk spoil in a matter of hours rather than days. The elderly and infirmed sicken and die much more readily. Wounds are slow to heal. The gods are slow to answer the call to heal and raise the dead. As Atropus draws near, the sky will darken. The dead will walk around in the diminished daylight. Cults and madness will destabilize day-to-day life. Plants will cease to flower. Animals will cease to conceive. Water will become bitter, and the living will begin to struggle against the rising tide of decay. Plagues of wandering undead will become commonplace, and the threat to civilization of a living force they'll be faced with invasion, subjugation, and destruction by an empire of ghouls, vampires, and other intelligent undead. All living creatures will be assaulted by the dark and sinister mind of Atropus. They'll not understand the words or even hear them as such, but the constant telepathic presence of something which despises them and promises the horrible death of the entire world will prey on them day after day, with each night a struggle to rest, punctuated by waking up screaming from horrific nightmares. They will lose their appetite, become listless or overly aggressive, be constantly tired and afraid. When Atropus finally orbits Toril, it will start at the distance of our moon from the Earth, then draw nearer and nearer. Soon it will be so close that its foul atmosphere will mix with that of Toril's, and it will almost scrape past the highest peaks of the landscape below. Geysers of black tar will burst from it like volcanic plumes and rain down great globs of muck, which will be infested with crawling undead creatures of every kind that will emerge and set about annihilating all life on the surface of the planet before turning their attention to the underdark below. At the same time, it will seem like everything that has ever died on the surface of Toril will rise again from its grave to sow death amongst the living. Necromancy will dominate all other forms of magic, and divine powers of life and light will be blotted out. So, how can one fight this level of destruction and threat literally as large as a planet, as powerful as a god? Well, there's a number of theories. It may be possible to band together the powers of the gods and create a portal so large it can swallow the 700-mile-wide bulk of Atropus, perhaps sending it directly to the positive energy plane, destroying it. It may be possible to collect up enough energy from the positive material plane and deliver it like a nuclear weapon right to the heart of Atropus, killing it. It can also be said that destroying the headless avatar of Atropus will cause the planet to immediately retreat, so swiftly that anyone on the surface of Atropus will need to flee quickly or be an unfortunate passenger through the depths of wild space. It may be possible to create a tear in the fabric of space using powerful artifacts of the abyss to swallow up Atropus and turn it instead into another plane of the infinite abyss, or plunge it into the abyssal void forever, or perhaps into the far realm, which will soak it up easily. Of course, doing something like that may still doom Toril as well, particularly if Atropus is too close. Personally, I don't know why the gods have never destroyed Atropus completely. They seem to have halfway done the job at some point in the ancient time before time. But what is preventing them from doing so now? Can the gods actually destroy Atropus, or is there some deeper reason for its existence? Who knows, but I assure you, the gods will be almost at the beck and call of whoever had the best chance to destroy Atropus, even if they could find some way to aid them directly. It may be quite difficult because they can't reach the surface of Toril if Atropus is that near. Of course, orcas will most likely be freely available to wander the surface of Toril at this point, enriched to demigod proportions by the massive currents of necrotic power. So in all likelihood, the final battles to save the world will take place in wild space, perhaps Saloon, the moon of Toril, or on the nearby planets. It may even occur in the Shadowfell or the Feywild, which may actually change dramatically. The Feywild could actually detach and withdraw from the prime material plane, and the shadow fowl will begin to coexist in permanent overlapping zones with this dark foul energies that have warped Toril. It is certainly one of the more difficult Doomsday campaign scenarios. One source in-game that may be of some help is the artifact called the Book of Vile Darkness. This manual of all things abhorrent was at least partially penned by the hand of Vector himself, and contains a lot of forbidden lore, including details on how to attract the attention of Atropus, and even how to beseech the undead planet for profane power in the manner of a warlock pact. This may give another means to destroy it. If there is some manner in which to form a pact bond with the mind of Atropus, it might be possible to attack or even drain it away in this particular avenue of contact. If you have any ideas on how to destroy such an epic threat, please share it down below, and feel free to wrap your collected brains around this topic. I look forward to seeing you come up with some sort of theory. Shout out to patron Phelan, who requested this video. Also, check out The Call of Atropus, a Lovecraftian horror adventure for a party of level 5 to 7 5th edition adventurers by Christopher Waltz on the DMs Guild. Link in the doobly-doo down below. It's got some pretty good reviews. Just as a reminder, if you've not subscribed already, feel free to do so. Be sure to hit that notification bell as I upload from the other side of the world sometime in your future. For access to all the scripts and 1 week advance access to these videos, consider becoming a patron of the channel on Patreon for a minimum of just $1 per month. Join the community on Discord server. Come say hi, post some memes. Also, if you want to pick up a new video game at a significant daily discount, there's a new game every single day. There's a link for that to Chrono down below. Also, there's a link to my little merch store, which is soon to be stocked up. And also, if you haven't participated in the art competition, I encourage you to do so. Check out the community tab on the channel. I update and put posts on there quite frequently. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll catch you again soon.